Welcome to CineChat, your go-to podcast for all things movies and TV.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're strapping on the cape and tights for a deep dive
Love it.
into the cinematic evolution of Superman,
Okay.
focusing on the Christopher Reeve era and Superman Returns.
Right.
Our source material is a fascinating podcast discussion,
Okay.
packed with behind-the-scenes trivia and commentary.
Awesome.
Get ready to unpack how these films reflect changing ideas about superheroes,
Yeah.
making, and even the cultural anxieties of their times.
I'm so ready for this.
So what's fascinating is how Superman, 1978, really aimed for a sense of grandeur,
Yeah,
which was unusual for comic book movies at the time.
absolutely. It wasn't just a popcorn flick.
Right,
They were going for prestige.
exactly.
And that's reflected in some of the casting choices, like Marlon Brando
Oh yeah?
and Gene Hackman.
Imagine seeing the Godfather himself as Jor-El.
I know.
It's wild, and they didn't even use comic book writers for the script. It's almost like they were trying to distance themselves from the source material.
Yeah, to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
It's like they saw the potential for Superman to be a modern myth, something that could resonate with audiences
Yeah,
beyond the comic book fandom.
beyond the comic book fandom.
Yes.
100%.
And speaking of mythic,
Yeah.
we can't forget the impact of Christopher Reeve.
Oh my God.
He truly embodied the dual nature of Superman,
Yes.
the strength and the gentleness,
Absolutely.
in a way that's been incredibly hard to replicate.
Think about watching this in 1978.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing Superman actually fly on screen.
I know.
Even if it was a dummy on a catapult,
It was still magical.
it must have been mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
The special effects, while dated now, were groundbreaking for their time.
Oh, yeah.
The use of rear projection, miniatures, and practical effects.
It created a sense of awe
Yeah.
and wonder that hadn't been seen before
Yeah.
in a superhero film.
100%.
And even amidst that grand scale, they found moments for subtle humor.
Yeah.
Remember the scene where the Kryptonian Council gets a face full of glass?
During the planet's explosion.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a small detail,
Yeah.
but it adds a layer of dark humor
Yeah.
that's both surprising
Absolutely.
and memorable.
I love that.
It's like even in the face of world-ending disaster,
Yeah.
they couldn't resist a little bit of ironic wit.
Okay. But then we have Superman 3, 1980-81,
Yes.
where things get a bit interesting.
Interesting is a good word for it.
Yeah. Two directors, Richard Donner and Richard Lester,
Yes.
with very different styles,
Yeah.
led to a noticeable shift in tone.
The clash between Donner's epic vision and Lester's lighter, almost comedic approach
Yeah.
is evident throughout the film.
It is, you can practically feel the tension
I know.
between those two styles.
Yes.
Visually, it's a bit jarring,
Yeah.
with Donner's sweeping shots replaced by a flatter, almost sitcom-like look in some scenes.
It's very strange to watch them back to back.
And then there's the whole Marlon Brando lawsuit saga.
Oh, gosh.
He was paid a hefty sum for the film,
He was.
but his scenes were largely removed because of the legal battle.
Yeah.
They had to bring in Susanna York
Yeah, to replace him.
to replace him,
Yeah.
leading to some awkward edits and continuity issues.
It's a reminder that filmmaking isn't just about artistic vision.
Right.
It's a business
It's a business.
with complex legal entanglements
Absolutely.
that can significantly impact the final product.
100%.
It makes you wonder how the film might have been different
Yeah.
with Brando's full presence.
Some argue that the humor in Superman 2 feels a bit hokey today.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman revealing his identity by tripping on a rug.
Yeah.
But do you think that was a misstep?
Hmm.
Or was it just a reflection of the comedic sensibilities of the time?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Superhero films hadn't yet fully embraced the darker, more serious tone that we see in many modern adaptations.
Back then,
Yeah.
there was more room for slapstick and lighthearted humor,
Sure.
even in films dealing with larger-than-life heroes.
And speaking of different interpretations,
Yeah.
Lex Luthor in Superman 2 is almost cartoonishly evil
He is.
compared to the more nuanced and complex portrayals we see in later films.
Yeah.
He's driven purely by greed and a desire for power,
Yeah.
with none of the psychological depth that later interpretations would explore.
It makes you realize how much our understanding of villains has evolved.
Oh, yeah.
We've moved away from simplistic portrayals of
Yes.
good versus evil
Yeah.
towards a more nuanced understanding
Yeah.
of the motivations and complexities that drive antagonists.
Before we jump into Superman the Third,
Okay.
we want to hear from you.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite scenes or characters from these first two Superman films?
Yeah, what moments stuck with you?
Share your thoughts in the comments below.
We want to hear from you. Now, Superman the Third, 1983, is where things take a sharp turn.
It almost feels like two different films crammed together.
Okay.
A Superman movie with minimal action and a Richard Pryor slapstick comedy.
It's a tonal whiplash for sure. And it faced some behind-the-scenes hurdles, too.
It did.
The original title, Superman vs. Superman, got them into legal trouble, forcing a change.
Really?
Yeah. Do you think that initial title gives us any clues about what the filmmakers might have originally intended?
It's certainly intriguing. The Superman versus Superman concept suggests a deeper exploration of the character's internal conflict, perhaps a darker, more psychological battle than what we ultimately got.
Yeah.
Instead, we see this strange blend of slapstick and superhero tropes that never quite gel.
The absurdity is almost overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
Like that scene where Richard Pryor's character presents Superman with an award, all while secretly plotting to attack him with kryptonite.
Yeah.
It just feels so out of place.
That scene perfectly captures the film's struggle to balance its comedic aspirations with the inherent seriousness of the Superman mythos.
Yes.
The humor feels forced, and it undercuts any sense of real danger or threat.
And speaking of threats, the whole evil Superman arc feels pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
Compared to the darker, more psychologically driven versions we see in later films and comics. The explanation of tar kryptonite just doesn't hold up to scrutiny.
It's almost as if they were trying to replicate the success of the evil Superman trope without fully committing to the psychological complexity it requires. Tar kryptonite feels like a lazy shortcut.
Okay.
A way to visually transform Superman without delving into the deeper implications of his corruption.
But even in this messy film, Christopher Reeve manages to shine.
He does.
His ability to portray both the heroic and the corrupted sides of Superman is truly remarkable.
It is.
Even if the material itself doesn't always live up to his performance.
Reeve's commitment to the role is evident throughout the series.
Absolutely.
Even in the weaker entries. He understood the character's inherent duality.
Yeah.
The struggle between his Kryptonian heritage and his human upbringing.
Right.
And he brought that depth to every performance.
Then we have Superman the Fourth, The Quest for Peace, 1987.
Oh boy.
A film often considered the nadir of the Reeve series.
Yeah.
The budget cuts are painfully obvious.
They are.
Impacting everything from the special effects to the overall production values.
It's a stark reminder of how crucial funding and resources are to bringing a superhero story to life.
Yeah.
Especially one involving a character like Superman whose powers demand a certain level of visual spectacle.
Exactly.
The film feels cheap and rushed, lacking the polish and grandeur of its predecessors.
Christopher Reeve actually co-wrote the story.
He did.
He did.
Wow.
Focusing on nuclear disarmament, which was a major concern during the Cold War era.
Right.
It's clear he was trying to inject some real-world relevance and bring back the optimism of the earlier films.
It's admirable that he wanted to use Superman's platform to address such a pressing issue. But the execution falls short.
It does.
The film simplifies complex geopolitical issues into a simplistic good versus evil narrative, lacking the nuance and depth required to do justice to the topic.
And then there's Lex Luthor's return.
Oh, no.
This time he creates a superpowered being called Nuclear Man. What was your take on this villain?
Oh.
Did he work for you, or was he just a bit too over the top?
Nuclear Man embodies the film's overall campiness and lack of seriousness.
I agree.
He's visually uninspired, lacking the menace and gravitas of Luthor's previous incarnations.
For sure.
It's as if they were trying to create a formidable opponent for Superman.
Right.
But ended up with a cheesy, one-dimensional villain.
He does look a bit like a blonde Dolph Lundgren knockoff, doesn't he?
He kind of does.
Not exactly the most intimidating supervillain.
Not at all.
And the whole Lex Luthor creates a Superman clone trope.
Yeah.
Feels a bit tired at this point.
It does.
It's a retread of ideas we've already seen, without any fresh twists or innovations.
It's a sign that the series was running out of steam, creatively speaking.
Yeah.
They were relying on familiar tropes and recycled plot devices instead of pushing the boundaries of the Superman mythos.
It's interesting to see how this series grapples with Superman's memory-wiping kiss across multiple films. He uses it repeatedly often to erase Lois Lane's knowledge of his secret identity,
Right.
or their shared experiences. Is this romantic creepy or a necessary evil to protect those he loves?
It's a morally ambiguous power,
It is.
and its repeated use raises some uncomfortable questions.
Like,
Is Superman justified in manipulating Lois's memories,
right.
even if he believes it's for her own protection?
Yeah.
Or is it a violation of her agency and a reflection of his inability to fully trust her with his true self?
It's a question that continues to spark debate among fans.
It does.
Some see it as a romantic gesture, a way for Superman to shield Lois from danger. Others view it as a creepy invasion of her privacy, a demonstration of his godlike power over her.
It's a testament to the complexity of the Superman mythos.
Yeah.
That even seemingly simple actions can have such profound ethical implications.
Absolutely.
It forces us to grapple with the nature of power, responsibility, and the boundaries of personal freedom.
Before we delve into the world of Superman Returns,
Right?
let's take a quick detour to revisit the Donner cut of Superman II.
Oh, yes.
This re-edited version of the film restores much of Richard Donner's original vision,
Yeah.
offering a fascinating glimpse into what might have been.
Yes.
Have you seen the Donner cut? And if so, what are your thoughts on how it compares to the theatrical release?
The Donner cut is a revelation.
Wow.
It's a much darker, more epic film.
Really?
With a greater emphasis on the conflict between Superman and the Kryptonian villains.
Okay.
The restoration of Marlon Brando's footage as Jor-El
Yeah.
adds a layer of emotional depth and thematic weight
Interesting.
that was sorely missing from the theatrical cut.
It's fascinating to see how different creative choices can result in such drastically different versions of the same story.
It is.
The Donner cut feels like a completely different film,
Yes.
with a stronger sense of continuity and a more cohesive narrative arc.
It makes you wonder how the Superman franchise might have evolved.
Right.
If Donner had been able to complete his vision for Superman Thick,
Yeah.
would it have set a different tone for the subsequent films?
That's a good question.
Would it have explored darker themes or delved deeper into the psychological complexities of the characters?
It's a tantalizing what-if scenario
Yeah.
that continues to intrigue fans.
It really
The
does.
Donner cut is a testament to the enduring power of Superman
Yes.
and the enduring fascination with exploring the many facets of his story.
Absolutely.
Now let's fast forward a couple of decades to Superman Returns, 2006.
Right.
This film aimed to revive the franchise while paying homage to the Christopher Reeve era.
Right.
It's a film that seems to exist in a strange in-between space,
It does.
either a full reboot nor direct sequel. Yeah. What were your initial impressions of this attempt to reimagine Superman for a new generation?
I remember feeling both intrigued and a bit apprehensive.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I was excited to see Superman back on the big screen.
Okay.
On the other hand, I wondered if the film could capture the magic of the Reeve era
Right.
while also carving out its own unique identity.
That's precisely the challenge that Superman Returns faced.
It did.
It tried to walk a fine line between nostalgia and innovation.
Yes.
And while it succeeded in some aspects, it ultimately stumbled in others.
True.
The casting of Brandon Routh as Superman was a bold move.
It was.
He certainly had the looks and the physicality to evoke Christopher Reeve.
He did.
But did you think he managed to step out of Reeve's shadow and create his own interpretation of the character?
Ruth does a commendable job capturing Reeve's earnestness and physical presence.
Okay.
He embodies the wholesome, all-American hero
Yeah.
that Reeve made iconic.
Cool.
However, the film itself doesn't give him much room to explore the character's inner turmoil
Right.
or the moral complexities that later interpretations would embrace.
I agree. He feels more like a symbol of nostalgia
He does.
than a fully realized character.
Yeah.
And the film's overall tone feels a bit muted.
Yeah.
It's lacking the vibrancy and energy of the Reeve films.
Yeah, it's like they were afraid to go there.
Yeah, as if it's afraid to fully embrace the fantastical elements of the Superman mythos.
That sense of restraint might be due to the film's attempt to ground itself in a more realistic world. The setting feels strangely timeless.
It does.
A blend of 1940s aesthetics and modern elements that create a disjointed and somewhat unsettling visual experience.
Interesting.
It's as if the filmmakers were trying to create a world that was both familiar and slightly off-kilter,
Okay.
perhaps to reflect Superman's own sense of alienation and displacement.
You know, even though Superman Returns didn't quite stick the landing for some folks, it did have some visually stunning moments.
It really did.
That sequence where Superman visits the remnants of Krypton, for example, was breathtaking.
It really was.
That scene gave us a glimpse into Superman's lost world,
Yeah,
a civilization far more advanced than our own.
absolutely.
Crystalline structures, the strange ethereal atmosphere. It was like stepping into a dream.
It was beautiful.
It highlighted the vastness of the universe
Yeah,
and the sense of wonder that's always been at the heart of the Superman mythos.
that's true.
But it also made me wonder, how did Superman even get there? The film never explains how he traverses the vast distances of space.
It doesn't.
Does he have some kind of Kryptonian spaceship tucked away somewhere?
That's one of the lingering mysteries of the film.
It is.
It's as if the filmmakers were so focused on the visual spectacle of Superman's journey
Right.
that they neglected to provide a plausible explanation for how it's even possible.
Yeah.
It's a detail that might bother viewers who crave a more grounded and scientifically consistent approach to the Superman story.
And then there's that scene where Superman lifts the entire Kryptonite island into space.
Oh, yeah.
It's a visually impressive feat of strength.
It is.
But how does that even work?
Right.
We know Kryptonite weakens Superman.
Yes.
So how can he suddenly overcome its effects when it's convenient for the plot?
That's a valid point.
It is.
Superman's vulnerability to kryptonite has always been a key element of his story.
Right.
A reminder that even the most powerful being has weaknesses.
Exactly.
But in Superman Returns, that vulnerability seems to fluctuate depending on the needs of the narrative.
Yeah.
It's an inconsistency that can undermine the audience's sense of belief
Absolutely.
and make Superman's powers feel arbitrary rather than grounded in some kind of internal logic.
Before we wrap up our deep dive,
Okay.
there are a few interesting tidbits about Superman Returns that might surprise our listeners.
Oh, really?
Did you know that Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Galactic, has a cameo in the film?
I did.
It's a fun little nod to the real-world pursuit of space travel.
Wow.
And it adds a layer of contemporary relevance to the film.
Right.
It's as if the filmmakers are acknowledging that humanity is inching closer to the kind of interstellar journeys
Yeah.
that were once purely the realm of science fiction.
And there's a brief mention of a birthday clown massacre,
Oh, yeah.
which some fans have interpreted as a subtle hint that the Joker exists in this cinematic universe.
Oh, wow. So they're setting up like a...
It's a tantalizing detail that sparks the imagination.
It does.
It makes you wonder if the filmmakers had plans to introduce other iconic DC Comics characters into this Superman saga.
Yeah.
Imagine a Superman Returns sequel featuring a showdown between Superman and the Joker.
That would be amazing.
It would have been a clash of titans, a battle between two diametrically opposed forces.
Mind boggles.
Yeah,
Sadly, we never got that sequel.
I know.
We can always dream.
It can.
There were also a number of deleted scenes from Superman Returns that offer a glimpse into alternate versions of the film.
Really?
One scene involves Superman confronting a group of bank robbers who try to shoot him with a comically oversized minigun.
Oh my gosh.
That scene would have been a fun action sequence,
Yeah.
showcasing Superman's invulnerability
Yes.
and his ability to make light of even the most dangerous situations.
Right.
It's a reminder that even superhero films can have moments of levity and humor,
Yeah.
even amidst the high-stakes drama and world-ending threats.
Absolutely.
Another deleted scene, and perhaps the most intriguing one,
Okay.
involves Superman traveling to Krypton in a crystalline spaceship.
Oh, wow.
It's a visually stunning sequence
It sounds like it.
that expands on our understanding of Kryptonian technology
Yeah.
and adds a layer of emotional depth to Superman's journey back to his homeworld.
It's a shame that scene was cut.
It is.
It would have added a sense of closure to Superman's arc
Right.
and provided a more satisfying explanation for how he navigates the vast distances of space.
I agree.
It's a reminder that the filmmaking process involves making tough choices, and sometimes brilliant ideas end up on the cutting room floor.
So looking back at all these Superman films,
Yeah.
what do you think is their lasting legacy? They've certainly had their ups and downs,
They have.
but there's no denying their impact on popular culture
Right.
and the superhero genre as a whole.
The Christopher Reeve films in particular set a standard for superhero cinema
Yeah.
that's still influential today.
Absolutely.
They showed that comic book characters could be taken seriously,
Yes.
that their stories could explore complex themes, and that their struggles could resonate with audiences on a deeply emotional level.
Yeah.
The image of Christopher Reeve soaring through the sky, embodying hope and strength,
It's iconic.
is etched into our collective memory.
100%. And even the later, less successful films contributed to the evolution of the superhero genre,
They did.
experimenting with different tones, visual styles,
Yeah.
and narrative approaches.
For sure.
They may not have always hit the mark,
Right.
but they paved the way for the modern superhero blockbusters we see today.
The enduring appeal of Superman lies in his unwavering belief in humanity,
Yes.
his willingness to fight for what's right, and his refusal to give up hope even when faced with insurmountable odds.
Right.
He represents the best of what we aspire to be.
Yeah.
Kind and compassionate and courageous in the face of adversity.
He's a symbol of hope,
Absolutely.
a reminder that even in the darkest of times,
Yeah,
we can always strive to make the world a better place.
we can.
And that's a message that will never go out of style.
Never.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the Superman film.
We have.
We've explored the highs and lows, the triumphs and the missteps.
Yeah.
And we've delved into the behind-the-scenes trivia
Yeah.
and the enduring legacy of this iconic character.
Absolutely.
But now we want to hear from you, our listeners.
Yes.
What are your most cherished memories of these Superman films?
What moments made you laugh, cry, or cheer?
What aspects of Superman's story resonate most deeply with you?
Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your perspectives and engaging in lively discussions.
And while you're at it,
Yes.
don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us what movie or series you'd like us to deep dive into next.
We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning in to CineChat.